This episode of Midco Sports Magazine is presented by Shields and Sanford Orthopedics and Sports Medicine.
Hello, welcome again to Midco Sports Magazine. It is March, it is tournament time, and we are talking about hoop heroes. 3 stories about 3 players that take and make the shot that turns them into Summit League legends. Raeshel Contreras in 2014, first round against Western Illinois, and the shot that keeps the Coyotes alive on their way to their first tournament title. And Michael Orris, 2017, the shot by the most unlikely Jackrabbit hero to win an epic in-state showdown in the Summit semis. But we tip it all off by going back to 2009. North Dakota State, Ben Woodside, and the shot that sends the Bison to their first ever NCAA tournament. Here's Brian Sean.
In 2004, as North Dakota State was making the difficult transition to Division I with a dated arena and old wooden bleachers, 4 players took a leap of faith, making the decision to carry the torch for the men's basketball program, knowing they would only get one shot at postseason play.
We all kind of decided, hey, if we redshirt our freshman year, then our redshirt senior year, we have an opportunity to go to the NCAA tournament. You know, we all decided this is the opportunity that we want to go for. This is why we wanted to play college basketball.
And I was so blessed to be a part of that team, being a role player, understanding that, you know, Ben Woodside, Brett Winkleman, and Mike Nelson on that team was 1, 2, and 7 all-time leading scorers in North Dakota State basketball history. Not just on the same team, but in the same class, and that doesn't happen very often in any program in America.
At the first ever Summit League tournament in Sioux Falls, North Dakota State was the top seed after posting an impressive 16-2 conference record. The Bison advanced all the way to the title game against Oakland, looking to become the first men's team in more than 35 years to qualify for the NCAA tournament in its first year of eligibility.
The previous year, our junior year, we couldn't play even in the conference tournament. You know, it wasn't allowed because of that transition period. Just having the opportunity to play in the conference tournament was special for us, and we were hungry.
The Bison overcame a 12-point deficit in the last 10 minutes of the game to take their first lead, but it's the last 15 seconds that will be remembered most.
I think we were up by 2, and then they dropped it down to Benson. I was weak side help, and I came over and I said, "You're not getting an easy 2 on me."
I think Winks tried to go up and foul him because Benson wasn't that good of a free throw shooter.
I figure if he goes 1 for 2, we got the lead and everything's good. I go up to foul him, and he said, "This ball's going in," and I got pushed out of the way.
Benson slams and ties it up.
After we won the game, I was like, good, nobody's going to remember that. But here you are bringing it up again.
We'll see if they take the timeout.
I didn't want Saul to call a timeout, just because if you call a timeout, then they can get their defense set. They can, you know, pressure full court.
If Coach Phillips calls a timeout in that situation, I think they have time to scheme some things, maybe get the ball out of Woody's hands, and that's not what we wanted, obviously.
We have a very long leash when we played, and so Ben just made a play, and he knew that if he didn't have the look, he had some good shooters open.
Luke Mormon, who's one of the selflessest players I've ever played with and been a part of, you know, set a screen. We call it a vertical screen, but it's not even really a screen. It's more of getting in the way.
Benson was off in the lane, and Benson was a long player, athletic. I didn't want to go to the hoop and try to finish over him, so I just shot a pull-up jumper at 15 feet. If you actually look on the video, Jonathan Jones, who was covering me, actually pushes me on the hip a little bit. They don't call it, but that's kind of how I start to turn. He gives me a little chuck on the hip, but ended up hitting the shot.
For the win with 3.3 seconds.
I didn't even realize there was time still left on the clock, you know, so I remember we're linked arms on the bench. We all jump up, we're yelling, and next thing you know, Jonathan Jones is dribbling down the court.
He got a good look. He was pretty deep. But as soon as I saw it leave his hands, I was contesting him, and I looked up at it, and right from the get-go, it looked like it was going left.
As that shot went in the air, I didn't think it was gonna go in, but the more I looked at it, it was close.
And I had a straight view of it, and I said, that has a chance.
The Bison, in their first year of eligibility, are going to the NCAA tournament.
Our whole bench rushes, right? And Josh Vaughn, one of the guys, he actually fell twice before getting even to center court. I remember right away I went and sprinted and I grabbed Wood, gave him a big hug. Well, he's running away, the whole crowd's kind of swarming in, and it looks like I tackled him.
So he hugs me, and then you can see he kind of just puts his weight on me, and then I go down.
I grabbed him, and then I got tripped from behind. Somebody stiff-armed him, or I gouged him, one of the two. Then he wasn't very happy.
About 10 other people stepping on my face, and I was trying to get back and celebrate with my teammates, but I was laying on the floor.
It's hard to really remember vividly being in the moment, ironically enough, but you look at pictures and you smile and you're excited. I mean, there's lots of video footage and photos afterwards that just makes you reminisce and enjoy it.
The celebration lasted 4 days, and on Selection Sunday, North Dakota State was seeded 14th in the Midwest Regional, matched up with national power Kansas in the opening round of the Big Dance.
The game in the Metronome, I mean, there was 15, 16,000 people there, and I bet 10, 12 were NDSU fans. I mean, it was incredible. So the support that the community gave us and you know, the hype that was kind of around it made it special.
Even though their storybook careers ended there, it gave Fargo and the region its first taste of March Madness.
At the time, I didn't know it was going to be, you know, such a big shot. I was just excited that I made it and we're going to the NCAA tournament, but it did kind of transcend into the development of Division I basketball at NDSU.
And joined now by Brian Shawn in Fargo. And B, you talked a little bit about how this was such a great moment, but building up to this moment, this Ben Woodside team that he led them through the last 2 or 3 years had been building to this moment for a while, right?
Yeah, and they came in redshirted and they talked about that, Tom, but I think in addition to that, some of the wins that this group picked up coming into the 2008-2009 season. They won at Wisconsin, who was nationally ranked. They won at Marquette the next year. They had some big wins on the road against some high majors, and that's where I think this group started to gain some attention, not only regionally, but nationally. And when they got to this point and they won in this exciting and thrilling fashion, it was the first time this region really got to experience what March Madness is. And we've all had a chance now to see that over the last 10 years that this tournament has moved to Sioux Falls, but this was the first moment where we really saw a team come in and play in an NCAA tournament on that kind of stage. And it's my favorite moment in the history that I've been covering sports. I just thought it was so unique, so fun, so different to have that come to North Dakota, South Dakota, and let the people and the fans around this area have that experience.
Awesome. All right, thanks a lot, Brian Shawn. Up next, 2014 University of South Dakota women and the shot that keeps the Coyotes alive on their way to their first Summit League tournament title.
Midco Sports Magazine on Midco Sports Network is presented by Shields and Sanford Orthopedics and Sports Medicine.
Welcome back to Midco Sports Magazine. The shot in our next story takes us back to 2014, the last year that the Summit League tournament was at the Sioux Falls Arena before moving to the Premier Center. USD's women won the tournament that year for the first time, but they wouldn't have even got close without the shot by Raeshel Contreras in the first round. Kelly Stewart was on that team, and she has the story.
Depending on the year, a Division I women's basketball team will play anywhere from the high 20s to the mid to high 30s in terms of the number of games. The amount of plays per game also varies, depending on the pace of play between the two teams. But on average, there are around 140 total possessions in 40 minutes of regulation play. 140 plays times, let's say, 33 games. That's a lot. 4,620 if you do the math. Calculate that over a 4-year college career, and we're talking just under 18,500 plays.
But ask any college basketball player about the most memorable plays of their collegiate career, and I guarantee they can count those on one hand.
But before we get to talking March Madness, we can't forget the challenges of the regular season.
It was a unique year. We were super young. We had just one senior in Polly Harrington, and our youth definitely showed at certain points throughout the regular season.
I think my biggest memory is just Polly being our only senior. So I remember a lot of this season was like, we got to do it for Polly.
Being the senior leader on that team was no easy task. We started conference play 0-4, and they were bad losses. I'm talking 21 points at IUPUI, 18 points at Fort Wayne, even lost to Western Illinois by 10 on our home court.
We kind of hit our stride in the second half of conference play, but still only finished 500 at 7-7, so we end up getting the 4th seed, and we're set to take on the 5th seed Western Illinois in the Summit League tournament.
I remember Ashley Luke. She was pretty versatile, big, so she could kind of take us from outside, so she was always a force to be reckoned with.
Tip is up. Ashley Luke wins it. Western Illinois controls the basketball.
I remember it being a very hard-fought game. I remember a lot of the times I was like, whew, they are just not letting up. It was just an intense game all around.
Intense and high scoring. The Leathernecks led by as many as 15 points in the first half. We rallied late to stop the bleeding, but it was still 54-49 Western heading into the locker room. The final 20 minutes were a tug of war. We never trailed by too many, even took a 1 or 2 point lead at times.
But our largest deficit of the second half didn't come till the end. 8 points with 3:07 to go.
Cue the coaching cliche, chip away.
That's definitely going to have to pick up the pace of the offensive man. They don't have a lot of time to wait. Harrington left open, hits her second 3 of the day. Seacamp got it by Henriksen. Switch it off with Hall. Miller's got some room for 3. She got it. 39 to go, 30 on the shot clock. USD down 1.
I think we needed a stop, and I remember them trying to pass it to Ashley Luke on the block.
Otter picks up a screen. Her pass intercepted by Seacamp.
I don't even remember how I got the steal. I think I was like, they're going to get it to Ashley Luke, because why wouldn't they?
It's going to bring it across. Amy Williams wants a timeout with 18.7 seconds remaining.
I remember us going into the timeout. Coach Williams had to draw a play up.
We were going to run a hammer play. I don't really remember what it's exactly called.
Miller gets the inbound. They are denying Seacamp heavily.
The play was kind of for me to kind of create or try and find someone that was open, just to basically see how they defended us.
I knew 3 things for sure. I knew the play was going to work. I knew if Nicole shot it, she was going to make it. And I knew if she didn't shoot it, it was probably going to come to me, since I was at like safety.
And I remember Ray's person helping, and then I somehow got her the ball. I don't even know how I got her the ball, because I swear their hand was right there. So I must have just lofted it up under the defender's arm.
Honestly, when I ran to that position, like to where I was on the floor, I was thinking, get somewhere where you know you could kind of make the shot. And don't, like, I knew when I went there, if I got it, it was going to be a catch and shoot situation.
Contreras going to take the shot. Got it!
Just threw it up there.
Shot goes in, we all jump up, we're screaming, a few of us are on the court. It felt like your standard March Madness buzzer beater, except there was still time left.
Everyone was jumping around. I was like, no, we've got 2 seconds, like, don't freak out, we have to win this, we can't lose it now.
1.1 seconds left to be exact, but nobody remembers that anyways. All we know is the time ran out, we heard the final buzzer, and our season was still alive. The remainder of this story involves us winning the Summit League Tournament Championship 2 games later and making it to the big dance, the NCAA tournament, for the first time in school history as a Division I program. But the biggest takeaways from that season all go back to the shot.
I just never imagined that I'd even go to college, for one. And then just to get a Division I scholarship to South Dakota and then be able to knock that shot down and kind of bring that like excitement and that experience to not only myself, but to South Dakota, it meant a lot to me. And it really, was a growing moment. The whole year was a big growing moment for myself. It did have a very huge impact on me.
Up next, Michael Orris and his shot for South Dakota State in 2017. But first, this month's Science of Sports with Olympic volleyball medalist Courtney Thompson.
Sports science is really understanding the physiology and the biomechanics behind athletic performance and health and safety. So we had Courtney wear strobe glasses. The lenses flicker. That removes visual information while the athlete is wearing the glasses. The idea is that if you train in this manner, it will teach the brain to process visual information more efficiently. It was a unique experience in that she was doing things that she had done thousands of times before, but in a more challenging manner. And that's what we try and do with all sorts of training, is you make things more challenging and the body will adapt and overcome and become better at it. And this is just one extension of training, but in this way you're training your brain and your visual processing system.
Midco Sports Magazine on Midco Sports Network is presented by Shields and Sanford Orthopedics and Sports Medicine.
Welcome back. Our next big shot takes us back just a couple of years to 2017. South Dakota State and unlikely hero Michael Orris, who hits the big shot in the Summit League semifinals against the University of South Dakota. David Brown has the story.
All it takes is one call. South Dakota State made the call to hire TJ Otzelberger as their newest men's basketball coach in April of 2016. Michael Orris made the call to use his graduate transfer option and play one more season of college hoops. So the two called on each other to try and make something happen.
I talked to TJ on the phone, and within 10 to 15 minutes of our conversation, I knew he was something special. I knew the way he talked about South Dakota State was something special.
To me, when Michael came in, I told him we need him to be a leader, we need him to be a coach on the floor, somebody that would be a direct reflection of the coaching staff.
If direct reflection was the goal,
For the win. Boom.
then the staff didn't like what they saw in the mirror. Michael Orris sat on the bench for 11 of the team's first 12 games.
And I remember vividly, there's a lot of times I said to him, I need you to lead as a fifth-year senior that you are in a veteran. And if you're not going to lead the way that I want you to lead, we'll play the younger guys.
And when I showed that and he could really feel it and trust that, I think that's when it finally, took that deep breath and we were able to get past that.
Michael Orris finally started his first game in late December, but his return to the lineup couldn't get South Dakota State out of an early season funk. At one point, the Jackrabbits were last in the Summit League, in danger of not even qualifying for the conference tournament in Sioux Falls.
Everyone's asking questions, well, why is this happening? Maybe we should do this, maybe we should do that.
Trust me, we heard the outside noise of what if these guys don't make the conference tournament? What if they're 9th place?
I think there was just a switch that we had to flip by everybody looking in the mirror, especially us as players and even the coaches, and saying enough is enough.
South Dakota State rallied to finish 4th in the Summit League and easily dispatched of Denver in the first round of the conference tournament. Their longtime rivals from South Dakota were next.
They just jumped on us early. They did a great job with scouting reports and being prepared and knowing our personnel and all that kind of stuff.
We took a lot of bad shots, I can say that. A lot of bad shots, and they capitalized on that.
USD led by as many as 16 points in the first half and led by 11 at halftime. SDSU, knowing its season was on the line, slowly started to chip away in the second half.
And I just remember thinking in my mind, all right, let's go. It's time now. If we're going to make a run, this is our time to do it.
It's tough, it's a grind. You got to do everything right.
South Dakota State eventually tied the game with less than 4 minutes to go. South Dakota had a 71-70 lead with 12.9 seconds left and a 1-and-1 free throw opportunity for freshman Tyler Peterson.
Doesn't get the front end.
He missed it, got the rebound, and the mindset is, okay, the clock is ticking now.
It was a play that was going to be a drive and a pitch back for Mike.
I was a little excited at the time, and I just remember getting down there super soon.
Mike kind of overran the play early, went through a little quicker than we wanted.
I take off running where I'm supposed to be down the middle of the floor, and I look back and I'm like, uh-oh, this is not turning out like it's supposed to be.
I know the clock is going down. We don't get the spots fast enough like we should.
In my mind, there was so much going through it. I'm just like, we just need to get a shot off. Just need to get a shot off.
And at that point, I was like, yeah, I got to take this shot.
Doesn't get the front end. Dom. Now South Dakota's got to be careful. Don't want to put them on the foul line. Orris backs it out. Of course, they want to go down. Rises up. Michael Orris with 1.4 seconds remaining.
For me, it just was trying to will my team to win, knowing that I had to do that and was put in that position to do it.
It was a kind of weird deal with that play. I mean, it worked out though. So.
Less than 24 hours later, South Dakota State beat Omaha 79-77 for the 2017 Summit League Tournament Championship, qualifying for their 4th NCAA tournament in 6 years. Although their season would end a few days later in the first round of the Big Dance to Gonzaga, the Jackrabbits wouldn't have even been there if not for one last call by their embattled point guard.
It was redemption for me of the years prior of college basketball not going the way that I envisioned or thought and wanted it to go. And that year at South Dakota State is going to be probably one of the fondest years of my entire life.
And joined now by David Brown. And this is just fantastic because of the unlikeliness of the guy who took the shot. Mike Dahm was on this team retelling, using guys that had taken big shots all season, and that Michael Orris is the guy to make this. Makes it just fantastic for Jags fans, doesn't it?
Right. Heading into the game, Michael Orris was a career 36% shooter. At the time of that shot, the other 4 Jackrabbits on the floor had career shooting percentages above 40%. Now, all season long, his teammates would razz him about his jumper. They'd say things like, it's broke, he can't make anything, he can't even make a layup. And Orris, to his credit, he played along with it the entire season. That was just kind of the good-naturedness of him. But ironically enough, it's his shot that saved South Dakota State's season.
And it's not like he couldn't score. I think he averaged about 8 points a game all year. It was a lot of layups, driving, stuff like that. And he tied his season high, his only season at SDSU, with 20 points in this game. And that just makes it all that more remarkable.
Just came up big in the biggest moment. And what's that old cliche, big-time players make big-time plays in big-time games? Michael Orris proved to be a big-time player in that semifinal game against USD.
All right, thanks a lot, David Brown. Thanks for watching Midco Sports Magazine. You can find this episode and all episodes on YouTube and IGTV.
This has been Midco Sports Magazine, presented by Shields and Sanford Orthopedics and Sports Medicine.